The Aaron Rodgers trade compensation is official. So that means with just over 2 days until the NFL draft, we have to do one final mock draft with the real Aaron Rodgers trade inputted into it. Let's get into it. So if you haven't seen already, the trade compensation for Aaron Rodgers is as follows. The Jets get Aaron Rodgers, pick 15, 5th round this year, pick 170. And in return, the Packers get pick 13. So they're swapping 13 and 15. The 2nd round pick from the Jets this year, pick 42. And also a 6th round pick from the Jets this year, pick 207. And the Packers are getting a conditional 2nd round pick that can turn into a 1st round in 2024 if he plays 65% of the snaps. And this is actually pretty close to what I've done in previous mocks. I kind of stopped doing the 15 and 13 swap, but I'm happy that that happened. You know, I feel like moving up 2 spots in the 1st round is huge on its own, as I feel this draft is pretty weak after the first 15 players. So I think it's huge that the Packers are moving up 2 spots. Some people may not think it's that big. I really do think it's that big. Then the only thing I really had wrong was the 5th and 6th round swap. I wasn't sure what else this trade was going to entail. I thought maybe the Jets would just include like a 5th round pick, but that's not the case. They wanted a 5th from the Packers, but at least the Packers got back a 6th from the Jets. The Packers still have another 5th round because they're giving away the compensatory selection, and now they're adding a 6th round with giving that away where they didn't have a 6th round before. So at least now they have a 5th, they have a 6th, and then of course they still have those 4 7ths. And before we get into the mock draft, wanted to remind you guys I will be streaming for the 1st round, 2nd round, and 3rd round. So I'll be streaming on Thursday at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time. The draft starts at 8, and then on Friday I'll be streaming at 6:45 Eastern Standard Time. The draft starts at 7. Make sure to come on by, hang out, and let's see who the Packers draft. And what a perfect time to do a final mock draft. This is version 10.0. I was hoping the compensation would come out a couple days before the draft so I could do one more mock draft. I'm super hyped to get into this. For this mock draft, it's going to be what I think the Green Bay Packers are going to do. So I have a lot of my players that I love, and I would love the Packers to draft, but I don't think necessarily that Brian Gutekunst would draft them. So for this mock draft, I'm going to go off of the Packers' visits, their thresholds. This is what I think the Packers are going to do in this mock draft. So without further ado, let's waste no more time and bring up the draft screen. It's already set up. We already have pick 13. The trade's all thrown in there already. We don't have to do any trades to start this off. And there is an option for the Packers to trade into up a little bit if they wanted to go to 10 with the Eagles, to maybe trade up for someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Now, I do believe he could go before the Packers, but now that they're at 13, I think they have a much better chance to stay put and have JSN fall right into their laps. So that's what I'm going to hope happens here, because that would be the best case scenario in my opinion. I do believe the Packers love JSN. There's been multiple reports saying that they feel even better now at 13 to grab JSN. I think if they're at 13 and JSN gets picked, they're probably going to end up taking a tackle like Paris Johnson or Peter Skoronski. So in this one, I'm not going to trade up. I think if the Packers were to trade in the 1st round, it might be back into the 1st round. They have a lot of draft picks now, I believe 11, so they could trade back into the 1st round right in the late to mid 20s here and still stay put at 13. That I think is more plausible than the Packers trading into, say, the top 10. All right, so let's go over the picks, the first 12, and this kind of laid out exactly how I thought it would. We have Bryce Young at number 1. That's a given at this point. Number 2, interested to see who that quarterback is. I think it could be Levis, it could be Richardson, it could be Stroud. Honestly, I have no idea. It's Richardson here. Will Anderson goes at 3 to the Cardinals. Will Levis at 4 to the Colts. Jalen Carter at 5 to the Seahawks. Tyree Wilson at 6 to the Lions. CJ Stroud to the Raiders. Devin Witherspoon, the first corner, off the board to the Falcons. Paris Johnson goes to the Bears. Bijan Robinson to the Eagles. I know a lot of people, I'm right around from the Philly area, really want Bijan Robinson. I think they would be ecstatic with that pick at number 10. Peter Skoronski, another really good tackle, goes to 11. And Miles Murphy, a great edge rusher, goes at 12. So the Packers are sitting here at 13. 2 of the tackles that I think they would like, Paris Johnson and Skoronski, are already off the board. An edge rusher that I think they would like, Miles Murphy, is already off the board. So sitting here, we have JSN. This is the given for me, that if the draft board falls like this, I think Brian Gutekunst actually does draft a 1st round wide receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I've said this multiple times. The irony is that I do believe the Packers draft a 1st round wide receiver in this situation the first year Aaron Rodgers is gone. And I just couldn't imagine to see Aaron Rodgers' face watching the draft when that happens, because like I said, I do believe it would happen. There's a couple other options here though. Don't think they'd go Dalton Kincaid over JSN. Christian Gonzalez is definitely an option. That definitely seems like a Brian Gutekunst thing to have JSN sitting right there and draft a cornerback in Christian Gonzalez. Nolan Smith, also there, another edge rusher I do like. I know a lot of people don't. I do like him. But for me, this is an easy selection at 13. I was more inclined to trade down when I'm at 15 because most of the time JSN was gone. Those tackles were gone. Christian Gonzalez was gone. There's a lot of players that were gone at 15 where it's like, okay, I need to trade back into the 20s. Whereas now that the Packers are at 13, there is a much higher chance that one of these guys that I really like are here. And that is going to be JSN. The Packers need to add a premier slot wide receiver into this offense. Last year, they used Randall Cobb as their slot guy. They're not going to re-sign him. And I know a lot of people will go, oh, you can just find a run-of-the-mill slot guy and he'll do well. But you want to have a guy like JSN in that slot position for your new quarterback, Jordan Love. This is a super thin wide receiver room, a super young wide receiver room. So adding a premier slot wide receiver, and yes, I said premier because I do believe he will be that in the NFL. Back in 2021, when he played with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, he was the best wide receiver on that team. We saw Garrett Wilson win Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, and Chris Olave was right behind him. Those two, arguably had both better seasons than, Christian Watson. If Christian Watson maybe played a whole year, he would have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So adding JSN here, I think would be huge for the Packers offense. It would be huge for Jordan Love. And like I said, I finally think the Packers add a wide receiver in the first round if it's JSN and he falls to 13. Almost 1,600 yards in 2021, 9 touchdowns. I don't believe that hamstring issue is an issue at all, and I think the Packers believe that as well. If it was like a really bad ACL injury or really bad ankle injury, like Keyshawn Boutt's injury, I would understand it. And I know hamstrings do linger, but JSN is still 21 years old, and he's had a lot of time off to, get over that, and I think he'll be okay. So this pick, easy for me. This is what I think the Packers do if the draft board falls like this and these two tackles are off the board and JSN's on the board at 13. So pick 13 for this final mock draft. I'm going Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver out of Ohio State. All right, so we're back on the clock at 42. I didn't trade back up into the 20s because Kincaid and Mayer went by 25 anyways. So did Darnell Wright, Lucas Van Ness. So there was really no need to trade back into the top end. Yeah, you could have grabbed someone like DeJuan Jones or Anton Harrison. But I kind of let it sit out as it went. Quentin Johnson fell all the way to 35. He's been falling heavy, and I think he should as well. Jalen Hyatt, honestly, went over him. And Quentin Johnson was, the fourth wide receiver taken. Could have traded up for Will McDonald here, but there's still a lot of edge rushers that I really love, and I'm most likely going to take one with one of these picks, one of which is Felix Anudike-Uzomah, which I really do like. But I think right now you might have to take Darnell Washington because I think he may go with one of these next two picks. The Packers have met with Darnell Washington. He is the prototypical inline tight end that they need to replace, that they 100% need to add to the roster with Mercedes Lewis gone, Robert Tonyan gone. Robert Tonyan was more of that move tight end, but still could play inline, where Mercedes Lewis was that straight up inline tight end that Darnell Washington would 100% replace. And he's very intriguing. I mean, 454 yards receiving, and that's with Brock Bowers on that offense. So I think if he's used more in the pass game, or if he was used more in the pass game, he'd have even more than that. 2 touchdowns, so not many touchdowns there. But again, he was used more of that inline blocking tight end, and he would be used sometimes in the passing game. But overall, probably the most ferocious blocking tight end in this entire draft class. We see an 81.3 run block grade. Very good at contested catching. Not the best at route running. And he's not going to create too much separation, but he's so good in the contested game that you really don't need him to. And he's also very dangerous after the catch. This dude with the ball in his hands, he's a lot quicker than you would think for 6'7", 6'7", 264 pounds. When the dude gets the ball in his hands, I mean, he's making people miss. He's hurdling people. He's very nimble once the ball's in his hands, surprisingly. So I am going to draft Darnell Washington here, and I'm really hoping that Anudike-Uzomah falls to 45, but I do have a backup plan. I do like Adetomiwa Adebawore a lot as well. I like him just as much as Felix Anudike-Uzomah, so I'm hoping I can get either one of those. I'd rather have Anudike-Uzomah. I have him slightly above Adebawore, but I like both of them. So with this pick at 42, I am going Darnell Washington, tight end from Georgia. And the next two picks, neither of which were Anudike-Uzomah. Cody Mauch went at 43, which is a tackle I do really like, and I think the Packers could have their eyes on. But I think they have a little bit bigger needs at tight end, edge, and wide receiver. I think tackle's kind of right after that, and they could address that in the 3rd or 4th or 5th round. So right now, it's a pretty easy call for me with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. He is by far the best player available right now, and my favorite player and the Packers have a needed edge. So we haven't even had to trade yet. We still could trade around whenever we need to. But Felix Anudike-Uzomah, I've drafted him in a few mock drafts. Really, really like him. I think this guy could even sneak into the first round. So getting him here at 45, I think is an excellent, excellent value. 6'3", 255 pounds, had 8 sacks last year, 13 sacks the year before, a 15.9% pass rush win rate. We see his role here. He's an every down edge. Where he wins, his bend, and where he can improve on is setting the edge. And we read his bio here. Anudike-Uzomah is one of the best edge rushers in the draft class. He's a type of edge rusher that's going to convert a lot of pressures to sacks because of that. Of his 89 pressures the past 2 seasons, 21 of them ended up in sacks. I think he could fit right in as a starter, and I do believe in Kingsley Enagbare, but until Rashawn Gary comes back, it would be nice to have Anudike-Uzomah, Enagbare, and Preston Smith as a rotation as your 3 edge guys, and the Packers could even add another one later in this draft or a veteran or something like that in free agency. They did re-sign Justin Hollins, which I do like him a lot as well, but with this pick at 45, this is a no-brainer. I'm going Felix Anudike-Uzomah, edge from Kansas State. I believe the Packers have also met with him. He was one of the players that posted an Instagram story of him being in the locker room. So he's met with the Packers. I think all of these players so far I've drafted, the Packers have met with. They didn't do a top 30 visit with JSN, but they think they met with him like 3 separate times at the combine. They did a top 30 visit with Darnell, and I believe they did a top 30 visit with Anudike-Uzomah. So we're here in the 3rd round, and I'm going to trade up 5 spots to get a guy that screams Green Bay Packer to me. They've met with him. He could fit the star role perfectly, even could play some safety if you wanted him to. So I'm going to go ahead and trade the 6th round we actually got in return from the Jets. I guess it was the San Francisco 49ers at one point. It's actually their pick. So I'm going to move up 5 spots, giving a 6th rounder. So we're losing a 6th rounder here. We're not going to have one, but I'm okay with that because we still have 4 7th rounders. So technically we could package some of those and get into the back end of the 6th if we really wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and offer this trade with the Houston Texans, and I'm going to sort this. He's listed as a cornerback on PFF, but that is Jartavius Martin from Illinois, who really fits more as a star role cornerback / safety. We see he played 177 snaps deep, so you can put him deep. He's very versatile, and he played 493 snaps in the slot. You see, he only played 75 snaps at corner, so I don't even know why PFF has him as a cornerback, probably just because he's a slot guy. But it doesn't make sense that Brian Branch is a safety when he's kind of the similar thing. He's just the same as this in terms of snaps. He's 5'11", 194 pounds. If we look at his description here, Martin manned the slot with authority in 2022. He's one of the class's best safeties, filling around the line of scrimmage against the run. He earned a 91.0 run defense grade last season. And if we look at his RAS, he's one of the most athletic safeties when he's plugged in as a free safety, which he 100% can be. He ran a 4.46, so this whole safety class is extremely slow. But when you add Jartavius Martin in as a safety, which is what he can do, and he can be that star role, he has elite speed, elite explosion, a 44-inch vertical. Absolutely insane. 11.1-inch broad jump. This guy is the definition of an athlete, and I think he's 100% on the Packers' radar. I didn't really have him on my radar before this because, honestly, I didn't know that he was kind of a safety. I always saw, okay, he's a cornerback, and I didn't really look into him. But truly, he can play deep safety, deep box safety, and in the slot. He's perfect for that star role, kind of what they wanted with Darnell Savage. And I think he would take over at that role 100%. And I also think he'd be excellent value here in the 3rd round. So we traded up to pick 73 because I do believe he'd go before our pick at 78. So I am going Jartavius Martin, safety out of Illinois here at pick 73. All right, so we're on the clock here in the 4th round at 116. And I think I'm going to try to trade down, and I'm going to try to get more picks in this range, the 4th to 5th round. And that would be trading with the Cleveland Browns. So we see here we'd be getting 126, 140, and 142. So a lot of 3 picks right in that little range where I like a lot of these players. We'd be giving 116, 149, and then also 235 and a 6th round next year. Now, usually in these mock drafts, I don't mess with any of the future picks, but since this is the final mock and I'm kind of playing it like Brian Gutekunst, obviously he can use future picks, and just a 6th round there, I'm okay with doing that while picking up this much, draft capital in the 4th to 5th round. There's a lot of players there I really, really like. So I'm going to go ahead and offer this trade to Cleveland because there's a few defensive linemen that I like. There's about 3 right now that I like, and I know one of them should fall to 126. Hopefully they all don't get taken between now and then, but it's only dropping down 10 picks, and we pick up a lot more capital there. All right, so 2 of them did go, but there is still 1. So So the one I wanted the most, just because the Packers have met with him, was Jacqueline Roy. That was actually the player the Browns selected after trading up with me. So yeah, I could have just selected him there. The Packers have met with him, but that's fine. There's still a couple others. I liked Moro Ojomo as well. I really, really liked Moro Ojomo, but I also really like Kobe Turner here. We see the past 3 years, excellent production. A 92.2 grade in 2022, an 81.1 in 2021, and a 90.8 in 2020. 3 sacks last year, 5 sacks the year before, and 3 sacks before that. Look at all of those snaps played. Only 197 in 2020, but the last 2 years, over 1,100 snaps. This guy has a ton of snaps. He's played A gap, B gap, over tackle, outside tackle. This guy has a ton of versatility. 6'3", 290 pounds. Turner dominated on the interior for Wake Forest last season. In his first year with the team after transferring from Richmond, he earned a 93.1 run defense grade and an 88.8 pass rushing grade. He's just a tad thin frame for defensive tackle, measuring at 288 pounds with 32-inch arms. So he's going to fit right into the 3 tech. The Packers lost a lot of snaps, losing Jerron Reed and Dean Lowry, and I think they need to address defensive linemen within the first 4 rounds, so this fits perfectly here in the 4th round at 126. Condre Coburn is also another defensive tackle I do like, but I like Kobe Turner a lot better. So here at 126, with the trade down, we're going Kobe Turner, defensive lineman out of Wake Forest. Here in the 5th round at 140, I'm going to go with a player that I just feel is going to be a Green Bay Packer. He's met with them. I've heard a lot of rumors about him and the Green Bay Packers, and that is Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver from Virginia. We see last year didn't play too well, only 430 yards in those 8 games, but that can be attributed to a lot of things, injury, quarterback play. We see in 2021, he had an excellent season. In 12 games, 1,201 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's 6'1", 206, fits that Packers build. He's a lot better of an athlete than his combine shows. His stop-to-start ability, his burst off the line, his route running ability, he has strong hands. I think he's very underrated, and I think he could even go in the 4th round. I think it's excellent value in the 5th round. Like I said, I think he's a very pro-ready wide receiver. He plays a lot of outside snaps here. We see barely any slot, so adding JSN, a slot receiver, and Dontavian Wicks, an outside guy, I think would be a perfect complement to each other. And like I said, I do believe that the Packers are very, very interested in Dontavian Wicks. So here at 140, I am going Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver out of Virginia. Here at 142, I'm going to try to trade down. There's a lot of players right around the 160, 170 mark that I do like, and I'm going to try to pick up 2 of them. So trading down here, that's going to allow me to do so. So we're giving up 142, 232, and 242 for 166 and 178. I like the players in the 60s to 70 or 160s to 170s better than the 7th round. So yeah, we're only going to end up with 1 7th round pick, but I think that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and offer this trade. It is going to be accepted. Let's get to our pick. Here at 166, we're going to go with another player that has met with the Green Bay Packers, and that is going to be Josh Weil, tight end from Cincinnati. This guy is very interesting, a really nice athlete at tight end. We see here an 8.98 RAS, 6'6", but also runs a 4.6 940, 33.5 inch vertical, low broad jump at 9.07, good agility grade, a little bit on the lighter side, 248. He could definitely put on some weight, but the Packers could definitely have him do that. So we got Darnell Washington, who's going to be your inline guy. Where Josh Weil can play inline, he can also play the slots here. You can see, 172 inline, 130 in the slot. Had 326 yards last year, 330 the year before, 353 the year before that. So 3 consistent years. And I think he'd be a very nice complementary tight end to drafting Darnell Washington. The Packers have met with both of these guys. He's extremely nimble for his size. He's good at contested catches. You could throw him up the middle of the field, up the seam, and throw him the ball, and he'll come down with it most of the time. He's a good runner with the ball in his hands, just like Darnell Washington. I do like Josh Weil. So here at 166, we're going Josh Weil, tight end out of Cincinnati. Here with our 6th round selection, since we first traded away our 6th round, but then did some trade back, so now we actually do end up with a 6th round pick. I'm going to go with Keaton Mitchell here, a running back, and I know some people might go, why are you drafting a running back? The Packers don't need one. That's the same thing they said when they drafted A.J. Dillon in the 2nd round. You always draft for the future. Getting a guy like Keaton Mitchell, who in his first couple of years could be a really, really nice gadget player at running back. I mean, this dude is extremely fast, extremely quick, and a ton of production in the last 2 years. Almost 1,500 yards last year, 1,100 yards the year before that, and he's a good receiver, 250 yards receiving both of the last 2 years, a 93.9 rushing grade. He's 5'8", 179. I mean, you can run this guy on jet sweeps. You see what's his role, a gadget running back / wide receiver. Mitchell will never get more than a few touches per game at running back due to his running style. A forward-thinking team would be wise to see how good his hands are because of his speed would play far more at wide receiver, where he wins the shimmy and where he can improve his running style. His description here, Mitchell is lightning in a bottle. He's got the kind of burners that don't get him caught from from behind. He recorded 31 carries of 15 plus yards to lead all of college football in 2022. Looking at his RAS, it's low at a 6.18, but it's because of his size, right? He's 179 pounds. He's 5'7", but he ran a 4.37 40. This dude is blazing fast and super explosive. A 38-inch vertical, a 10'6" broad jump. So the Packers have also met with Keaton Mitchell at running back. So another player in the later rounds, they meet with them. You know, they end up drafting them. A lot of the ones last year, like Samori Toure, Tariq Carpenter, Rasheed Walker, all met with the Green Bay Packers. So here at pick 178, we're going Keaton Mitchell, running back out of East Carolina. So here we are with our final pick in the final mock draft at 256, and we're going to get an offensive lineman. I would have liked to address this a little bit earlier, but with the way the draft board fell, you know, I'm very okay with just picking up one here in the 7th round. I think the Packers are doing okay for this season. You know, they have Josh Nijman in the building. They have Bakhtiari. They have, you know, Zach Tom. They have a bunch of good guards like John Runyon and Elton Jenkins, and still Josh Myers at center. So I think they're doing good, and I think they could still add a couple guys. I mean, Rasheed Walker, I think, could be a surprise to some people at tackle for his second season, but I'm still going to add another tackle here in Connor Galvin. I think he's excellent value in the 7th round here. We see the last 2 seasons, played 13 and 14 games. He did allow 4 sacks last year, but 0 sacks the year before that. He played all of his snaps at left tackle, but he could definitely play some right tackle if you need him to. Connor Galvin just has a ton of snaps and a ton of experience. Super smart football player. Gets to the second level really nicely, and he gets out of his stance very quickly, very similar to like a David Bakhtiari, getting out of his stance very quickly. Connor Galvin, I think, is an awesome value here at 256 here at tackle. So with the final pick of my final mock draft, we're going Connor Galvin, tackle out of Baylor. All right, so that does it. We are just a couple days away from the NFL draft. This is my final Green Bay Packers 7-round mock draft. This is what I think will happen. So when I'm drafting like this, I'm thinking as Brian Gutekunst, the players he's met with, the thresholds they have at certain positions, and the needs they have. So pick 13, JSN fell right into our laps. I think the Packers draft JSN at 13 if he's there, and Skronsky and Paris Johnson are off the board, which they were in this case. So JSN, our pick there. Day 1 slot receiver, day 1 starter next to Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. I would really love to see that. Then at pick 42, Darnell Washington fell right into our laps. The Packers have met with him. They have a huge need at inline tight end, and Darnell Washington is the definition of an inline tight end. Very ferocious blocker, you know, physical tight end, can go up and get the ball, can also be a threat in the red zone and as a receiver. And Darnell Washington, I think, is an excellent pick there. Then we get Felix Anudike-Uzomah, another player that, you know, could definitely go way before 45 in my opinion, and I think he's tremendous value at 45. He could also be a day 1 edge rusher starter opposite Preston Smith, or just rotate in with Enigbare. And once you get Rashawn Gary back, I mean, look out. You got Anudike-Uzomah, Preston Smith, Enigbare, Rashawn Gary, Justin Hollins. You got 5 guys that you can rotate to get after the passer. In round 3, very Packer pick here in my opinion, Jartavius Martin. He's a safety. They have him listed as a cornerback just because he played a lot of slot, but he also played 177 snaps at safety. So this is a very versatile guy. The Packers could use him, put him back there with Rudy Ford in a 2-deep look, put him in the slot in a 1-high, cover 1 look. You could do whatever you want with him, move him around, play that star role with Jartavius Martin. Super, super athletic. Really, really good against the run at Illinois. This guy was one of the better, you know, defensive backs at Illinois with Devin Witherspoon and a bunch of other guys like Sidney Brown. Really like this pick at 73 here. Then we get Kobe Turner. I think this is tremendous value here. Could plug in at 3-tech, could be in the rotation of Devontae Wyatt, and TJ Slayton and Kenny Clark there. Then we swapped a bunch of picks here with the Cleveland Browns, and then selected Dontavian Wicks here at wide receiver. I think he's a lot better than, you know, the round 5 value here. I think he is like a round 4 wide receiver, and he showed that in 2021, and I think he will be a nice receiver in the NFL, and I think he will surprise a lot of people, and I do like him for the Green Bay Packers, and they've met with him, and I think Brian Gutekunst really likes him as well. Then we get Josh Weil, another player that the Packers have met with at tight end. You know, plays a lot more nimble than his frame shows, could be a receiving threat tight end, and also an inline guy if you need him to be. So getting him to complement Darnell Washington, I think, is an excellent thing there. Then we get Keaton Mitchell. Again, another player the Packers met with. Super small running back, but super fast. 4.37 40, super explosive, and he could be your gadget guy. You could throw to him out of the slot. You could throw to him on screens. You could do jet sweeps with this guy. I think the Packers need a running back like that. I know they do it with Aaron Jones, but they could use someone like this just to give Aaron Jones some, breathers when they need to. Keaton Mitchell could definitely be that guy. Then to finish off this draft, we go Connor Galvin at tackle. I think it's tremendous value there at 256. Played left tackle 3 years at Baylor, and could also play some right tackle. Getting another tackle here. The Packers drafted an offensive lineman in the last 21 of 22 NFL drafts. So that does it for my final Green Bay Packers 7-round mock draft version 10.0. Like I said, we're 2 days away. I'll be streaming for the draft. If you guys are new here, please go down and hit the subscribe button. It supports my channel a ton, and leave a like on this video to finish off this awesome mock draft season. Super excited for Thursday. I hope to see you guys in the live stream. Let me know what you think of this mock draft. I think it's pretty close to what I think Brian Gutekunst is going to go after. So leave that down in the comments below. We'll see how it turns out Thursday. Appreciate everyone watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.